Hello and welcome to this episode of Community Spotlight. I'm Adam Forster.
And I'm Lottie Brown.
So we have a whole new format for this show. Sadly, Karen Brown, not related, couldn't continue on with the show because her life has gotten so busy, and her deal being a book publisher and agent has really picked up recently. So we've been sending Lottie out into the field, and we've had some pretty big events recently. Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk about the Lafayette weekend that we had here in Culpeper 2 weeks ago. And you went off and you went to several different locations. Where did you go?
I went to Mountain Run Winery.
Okay.
And Polo Grounds off of Mount Zion Church Road.
Okay. What happened at the Mountain Run Winery?
They had a 1800s themed ball.
Okay.
So there were lots of people there in costume, mostly in costume, and they had dancing and dinner provided and refreshments and people in costume like Lafayette and Washington.
Did it look fun?
Yeah, it did.
That's very cool. So that's great. And how long? What time? How long were you there for the event?
Oh goodness, let's see, a couple hours. Let's see, I think it started at 7. And I got there at 6:30 and stayed till about 9, I think.
Oh, so you were there a good long time.
Yes.
And then you went to the polos again as well.
Yep, that was the next day, I think, in the morning.
Okay. And you enjoy that? Have you ever watched a polo game before?
No.
Could you tell what was going on?
Oh, really?
That's happened to me. I've gone to polo games and like, okay, what is the object here? You know, it's for me, it's like watching ice hockey. You ever watch ice hockey?
Yeah, I've heard it's very confusing.
Yes, ice hockey. I'm like, they're always getting off and on the ice, and it's like I never understood that too. So polo is just like that for me, but
yeah.
I think a little bit more fun to watch.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. It seems like it takes a lot of balance to be on top of the horse and reach way down there. And
I think you have to be a great horseman.
Yeah.
Really, really good rider to play.
Yeah.
That's cool. So you enjoyed that too?
I did. Yeah, that was fun.
Great. And then I went to one of the events they had down by the depot where they welcomed Lafayette, and I think it was President Monroe, I think it was, who welcomed him. And it was really quite an amazing event. They had both bands from Easton View and Culpeper High School, and they had a lot of people there watching. So this was a really well-produced event, series of events really over that weekend. And now we're actually going to cut to an interview that we did with the person responsible for pulling everything together, and her name is Sarah Coleman, and we'll be right back with that interview. Hello and welcome to this edition of Community Spotlight. We have a very special show for you today. We have Sarah Coleman of Culpeper Minutemen and Liberty Hall, and she and her organization just put on this massive series of events last weekend in Culpeper and the surrounding area. Sarah, thank you so much for coming on.
Well, thank you very much for having me here.
You're very welcome. So Sarah, you created this nonprofit just for a series of events, and it wasn't just the last weekend, but it's also for huge events coming up in October, I think you said.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
What was the inspiration for doing this?
Well, interestingly enough, right before I came here, I just was putting together a Facebook post on trying to explain kind of the journey on how we got here. About 22 months ago, in October of 2023, we met in my 7th cousin's dining room at Greenwood, who is Eleanor Long. And she's a Green family descendant through John Green, whom I'm also a Green family descendant. So I think she's 7th generation, I'm 8th. And we connected when she came to farm tour and kind of wanted to look around the property. And her dad was so kind, and he was Duff Green. And just very generous, very opening. So we ended up kind of, connecting a little bit as distant cousins and historical property owners in Culpeper. Just kind of kept in touch. And so when we celebrated the 100th anniversary of my DAR chapter.
Daughters of the American Revolution.
Yes, Daughters of the American Revolution at Liberty Hall. The founding member that started that chapter in 1923, her name was Lovey Caffley, and she grew up as a Gilkinson at Liberty Hall. So we were very happy to be able to host the 100th anniversary there. And we had national and we had DAR people in, and David Durr, the supervisor, was there, and a lot of local people. It was wonderful. So we talked to her there about, hey, why don't you become a member of the chapter, and then we will do Greenwood, the the reenactment, a pageant at Greenwood, which is what our chapter did in 1925.
Oh, wow.
So it was kind of a nice, let's do it again. And so we started that process in October of 2023, and it quickly morphed from there. We had heard that the Sons of the American Revolution, their local chapter, was planning on doing like a reunion in the park at Yale Park, which is where the Culpeper Minutemen mustered October 22nd of 1775. So we wanted to host something there for the 200th anniversary of the muster call. So we thought, okay, well, let's do Greenwood, the reenactment, in October, and connect it with the SAR so we can combine our forces, and combine our audiences, and everything will just be a little easier. The program can be a little bigger, and that's kind of the underlying thought of where my organization came from. Is let's all combine forces. Right, so that everything can be a little bit more diverse, a little bit bigger, but everybody is still focused on their area of expertise. And so turns out that then we found out that there was a group called American Friends of Lafayette, which we didn't know at the time. I moved here from New Mexico, cattle ranching, and we had a polo club in Arizona. So I did not grow up with Lafayette and every street named Lafayette and an elementary school named Lafayette. We still had Revolutionary War history, but it was through Bernardo Galvez, who was the commander of the Spanish forces. So when we find about them, and they said, well, why don't you move it back to the August, because we're doing this tour where we're actually recreating something on each day. So we looked at that. Okay, let's do that. So now we had 2 events. And that's how kind of the nucleus split, right? So we had we were doing the Lafayette bicentennial in August, and then we were planning already a special History Week celebration for the Culpeper Minutemen, the 250th anniversary. And so trying to work with all the various groups that were together, we had the Museum of Culpeper, we had Historic Germana, we had Visit Tourism, First Baptist Church of Culpeper, Little Fork Church, the SAR chapter, the DAR chapter, the Masonic Lodge. I mean, there was just a huge amount of people that have all this history and wanted to be involved. But there was no central way of fundraising or combining forces, or really an easy way for everybody to work together. Everybody has their own board, everybody has their own policies. So I thought, okay, well, what we need is a single umbrella organization that will sort of be an overarching organizer for History Week. And because neither the SAR nor the DAR are incorporated, they can't get fundraising or grants. So I decided in January, well, I'll incorporate. And so myself and 2 of my other chapter members, Katie Lindsay and Lauren Clark, well, actually Lauren Clark was a provisional at the time, formed the Culpeper Minutemen. And we chose the name specifically because the idea was that we were going to work between the 2 chapters, specifically promoting the regional history of the Culpeper Minutemen. That's how that founding happened. And I've already done a charity before. When we were in Arizona, I still have, it's an active nonprofit called Being the Change, which is for kids that normally wouldn't have the economic resources to be involved in polo or horse sports. So we would sponsor them and get them into that. So I kind of had some idea on how that worked. So I was able to actually be founded, incorporate as a non-stock in Virginia, and get our 501c3 status in about 7 days.
Wow, okay.
Which was fantastic.
That is moving quickly.
Yes, so it was a lot faster than everybody thought. I think it took some people by surprise, including me. So we were then pretty much quickly able to organize, and I started trying to work with getting everybody involved into like a hierarchy of a large project, with the idea that we were sort of only the organizer of all the individual things by pulling it together, but that everybody else was doing their separate events. So that they could all have their signature groups and make sure that they were able to control it internally, just that we were putting the icing on the same cake.
I got you.
Yeah.
So you're like the United Way. You're like the umbrella organization.
Not necessarily umbrella, but yeah, but similar, like an
Yes. Yeah. Now, it's so interesting because I don't think a whole lot of people younger know who Lafayette really is or was.
No.
Can you give us a little back? I mean, he is one of the most interesting figures out of the American Revolution, and they had a lot of interesting figures. So
they really did.
Yes.
But Lafayette was very particular, and especially in this region, very important to the Revolutionary War. So in 1777, he defied his king and also his father-in-law, the Nolls, which were a very important family in France, very wealthy and courtesans. And he had just married, I'm blanking on his wife, Annette? No. Adrienne was his wife's name. And she was young, and thankfully it was a love match. And he said, I really believe in this cause. I really want to go over there. I really want to do something. He didn't want to be a part of the French military, which at the time, especially in court, was a little bit more about presentation and not about production. So he really wanted to be about production. And so he got a lot of his young friends that also wanted to do that. And he got on a boat in England and went to America.
That's quite interesting, right? Yeah.
Because I believe, and I'm not sure I'm remembering my history exactly, but I'm pretty sure that the King of France put out a no fly for Lafayette.
Yeah.
Nobody was allowed to take him on the ship, so that's why he had to go to England and then go over.
Wow.
So yeah, he
was a courageous,
he was a very
brilliant,
courageous kid.
Yes.
And as most of our stories of our greatest heroes start out, right? It was a little bit of disciplinary problem. But that's kind of how things grow, right?
Yeah.
You have to break out of the shell in order to get bigger and more growth. And, that's how everything works. So very much like the American Revolution, if it hadn't worked out, he would have been tried for treason or whatever the equivalent was.
Yes, he would have been in big trouble.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So thankfully it worked out. But he came over here as just a 19-year-old, extremely wealthy though. And somewhat influential in court. I mean, he was in a lot of trouble with his king, and his father-in-law not a fan at the moment, but after the years went on, he was able to really convert them into being a part and use his position and his family's position to bring over a lot more. But he met General Washington at, I think it was at Mount Vernon.
And I heard they really hit it off.
Right away. And, General Washington was without his own children, right? He only had Martha's two kids, the Custer.
Yes, I know exactly.
Trying to remember who.
Yes.
The two Custer kids, and no son of his own. Which I don't know if that's providence or what, but God kind of decided that this would be a better adoptive son, right? Lafayette's family had died very early on, so he also didn't have a father. So it was a really nice meld. And they really took to each other quite a bit, and just military-wise and logistics-wise and manners and ideas and what they were building on. But they were also quite interested in horse sports, equestrian sports. So at the time, Lafayette and George Washington both liked to fox hunt. Well, actually, George introduced him to that because they would have fox hunted in England and here, but not in France. They did stag hunting. So he took him out fox hunting around Lord Fairfax's land, which is now an awful lot of Fauquier and Rappahannock County. So he hunted throughout that entire region. And later on, after the war was over, Lafayette gifted him with a set of foxhounds. I think they were probably stag hounds, but it was a particular bloodline. Sent them to George, and he was a very advanced breeder of foxhounds. So George incorporated their line into his, and a lot of those French hound bloodlines still exist in Virginia foxhounds.
How cool is that?
It's really cool, right? It just
awesome.
keeps going.
It does.
So not just the descendants, the human descendants of this, incorporation still thrive here in Virginia.
And even though he's French, he really exemplifies the American spirit.
Absolutely.
The freedom, it gripped him in such a way. He was looking for something true, something to believe in. The French court was corrupt, wealthy, boring in a way. It was just all about pleasure. And he was looking for some way to really become somebody.
Yes.
You know, he was looking to find himself, and he found it in the New
Right,
World.
a mission.
Yes.
Right? He just
Yeah.
needed something to do, right?
Don't we all?
All hyperactive kids
Yes.
just need a mission. You just
I
need
agree.
to give them
Yeah.
a job and let them go.
Right. Yep. That is exactly it. Okay, so in the time we have left, can you walk me through? No, it's been so interesting. I love history. Can you walk us through the different events? Because it wasn't just one; you had multiple events.
Multiple events.
Yeah.
So as time progressed, from January when we first incorporated, we ended up becoming very much more of our own independent organization. So we took over. Greenwood was taken over by Eleanor Long,
Right.
and the DAR chapter wasn't able to continue with that. They chose to do a different project. So she took that over, and within there, we kind of formed. We helped financially, and we brought all of the mounted group to her house, and then I was there for all the committee meetings. So we helped with a lot of that. We hired the carriage, that type of thing. And that was the Greenwood military reception. But then with an idea that, okay, well, let's build out on this, I got a grant from the Virginia Humanities to do pre-Lafayette activities, which was to bring English country dance to Culpeper and 1825 and 1775 fashion classes.
Okay.
So we held a sewing class, and all of the ladies that went to the sewing class were at the ball. And we held, I think it was almost like 20 dance classes, most at Mountain Run, which the Foster family, incredibly generous.
They love things like that.
Not only do their stuff the best ever, but they are the best ever.
They are. They
right?
really are.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we held, that was all pre-events that built into the ball, which the grand ball was the giant finale. And I planned this grand ball with my committee, Lauren, and my friend Charisse Metrocardi, and a couple others that were extremely important. And we had never been to an English country dance ball before, ever. So didn't really know what it looked like, which I think is why it was so great, because we just assumed it was going to be awesome and big. So we ended up doing it outside, which is very much more Culpeper style. We don't have any facilities here to house 250 people. And we had about 260 at the ball. And almost everyone was dressed in historic costumes. It was really cool to have that many people. They had plenty of time to get ready for it. They had time to learn how to dance. They had time to find what they wanted to do. We had a lot of pictures out. Here's what you can follow. And I think we just made it easy for people to participate, right? And there was no judgment. It was just show up.
And have fun.
Right? And have fun.
Yeah.
That was the entire point. So we did the ball. That was
Okay.
entirely us. And then
I do want to point out that as we're talking, you're going to see pictures from the ball and video, because we had our own Lottie Brown go on site with her camera, with our video cameras, and record all this. So we thank you so much for allowing Lottie to be a participant.
Oh, she was wonderful.
Yes,
we were lucky to have her.
Thank you.
So in order to solve the problem of how do we get 20, because there were originally 40 mounted escort that brought Lafayette over, but how do we get a big group of mounted people to escort and do the reenactment that they did in 1920? I thought, okay, well, we need to host a polo tournament because there's no other way to get 20 guys on horseback in a single place that know what they're doing. And then it was my husband he's a first lieutenant in the Virginia Defense Force.
Okay.
And my son is a specialist in the Army Reserves.
Okay.
So they've already done a lot of the mounted stuff. They're actually opening the rodeo next weekend for John. They are the mounted 1st Virginia Cavalry. They are the mounted parade that does that. So these guys already knew kind of what they were doing, and we're already very involved in polo. My husband is a governor at large for the organization, so he represents all the players. And I thought, okay, well, let's go to the Armed Forces Committee and let's make this tournament about celebrating our allies, right? Because we did have quite a lot of allies in the Revolutionary War that people don't really realize. The French, obviously.
Right.
But then there's the Dutch, the Netherlands, who gave us a lot of financing. There's the Spanish, Bernardo de Galvez, who did an awful lot to help us, mostly because they were allied with the French and they hated the English, but it still helped us, right?
Right.
And then the Oneida tribe and several of the northern American Indian tribes that helped out during Valley Forge and in North Carolina, a lot of other places.
Yeah.
So we wanted to celebrate all these people, and let's have a polo tournament that brings over military players to be a part of all this. So after a year of planning, we were able to bring over, I believe we had 26 participants in all. All of them were active military. Most of them were active military. Some of them retired. And then we ended up incorporating a couple of people that just had significant Revolutionary War history because they're fabulous and had stuff.
Had stuff,
right?
Stuff,
so
yeah.
very much like, you can be an active participant, a patriot, right? Or you were a foundational one giving money, right?
Yeah.
So Nelson Gunnell of Banbury Cross, he's a direct descendant of General Thomas Nelson, who was in charge of the military forces, the Virginia military forces during Yorktown. It was him that gave a gold guinea to the first soldier that could hit his house with a cannonball.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, really a great story. And we had the very first polo tournament at his house at Banbury Cross. So it was really nice to incorporate him into all of this.
I love the creative way you're thinking going about this. Okay, how can we get guys with horses? Polo, all right.
Polo.
I mean, I just don't think of the American Revolution and polo. It's just not, to me.
And that, I think that was a mind blower for a lot of people. But I'm loving that we're getting this opportunity to kind of bring in all the lines and weave it together.
It is brilliant. I love that.
And so during the discovery of this, Patton Legacy Sports became one of my sponsors. And I did a lot more research on General George Patton. Turns out he's a son of Culpeper. So George Patton.
Wow.
Junior. So Ann Mercer Slaughter is his great-grandmother. And she grew up at what is now called Eldon Farms, which was the slaughter homestead up there.
In Rappahannock.
In Rappahannock, it's still there.
It's a beautiful property.
And they're celebrating a big music festival in September, end of September. So you can see the house then. And his fourth great-grandfather was William Williams, who was actually the guy that gifted the land for Greenwood to William Green. And that's how Greenwood came about. So not only is he directly related to the Slaughter family, who kept the diary that told us all about the Culpeper Minutemen and this 1825 visit, he's directly related to the Greenwood property too.
Wow.
It was just really cool. So it just brought polo and the Patton Legacy Sports and everything kind of all together. It was really wonderful. And then we had a lot of other sponsors that were extremely beneficial, that are all into horse sports and equestrian. And then we brought in some other people. It was just great.
I went down to the depot. I was a little busy. I couldn't go to the ball and the other things. And I was blown away, by the attendance. There were a lot of people there on a Saturday to watch history being reenacted, which is pretty cool. But then you had the band from Easton View, or the orchestra, and also from Culpeper High School.
Yeah.
So you had
both the bands and the choir. And that was Elizabeth Hutchinson, who was part of our committee. She did all of that. In conjunction, she's also a member of the Museum of History. So, that was an example of where our partners kind of did their best thing. And it just turned out.
It was really cool. And what happened at the depot exactly?
So I believe the carriage was supposed to go all the way in, but I'm not sure.
I think he stopped short and then he got out and walked.
And then he got out and walked.
Yeah.
So he gave Lafayette, who is Mark Schneider, that's his name. He came up from Williamsburg Foundation. He's a full-time Napoleon reenactor, which is why he rides so well. So he gave the address as Lafayette there on the caboose. He does a fantastic job of this with the American Friends of American Friends of Lafayette. And then the both high school bands played, and both the high school bands had been practicing this for 6 months. They both played special pieces that were exclusively for Lafayette's return. So, I mean, the kids not only were forced to learn history, but they had to kind of project it out too.
I love experiential learning.
Yes.
You know, it's not just read it and forget it, but if it's then incorporated into your life and it's tactile.
Yeah.
Right?
It all the learners have got it, right? The auditory, the visual, and the kinetic. Everybody's got it, right?
It's
and
cool.
it's a core memory now, which is fantastic. And there was like 100 kids there.
Easy.
I mean, so boom. We've got our spores, right? growing with Culpeper history.
And you know, history sadly is not being taught like it was or it should be. It's sort of fallen by the wayside. So to have a separate entity come in and help educate how important Lafayette really was to the American Revolution. I mean,
we would have lost.
Yeah.
There's no possible way.
Right. Now I'm English, so I'm like, but actually.
Well, we were all technically English.
Yes, right? So the first 5 presidents were
we evolve.
Right? Okay, then. But America becoming free was the best thing to ever happen to the world.
Yes, absolutely. No, and so we talked a little bit about the schools, and that's what we're doing in October.
Okay.
October 13th through the 17th, we're doing 5th grade muster call for all 5th graders in Culpeper County. It is a massive undertaking. And Jim Bish from the Culpeper Museum, and he's currently the president of the SAR chapter, the Sons of the American Revolution. He has been working on this with me a little bit, being supportive. I got distracted by Lafayette. So he really took the lead on this and did so much, getting it all connected with the schools, and he's got volunteers. So each of the kids are going to come in for about a 45-minute presentation where they'll go through different stations, and they're going to learn about medicine in the American Revolution and religion. Why did we have units that were only Baptist or only Lutheran? And then what it meant to march away from home, right? How do you prepare your wife and your family to now be taking care of the entire farm all by yourself? And you're taking the best weapons with you.
Yeah.
So how is she supposed to hunt?
Right? Or defend
herself, right? Yeah. So, I mean, this was really scary, these guys. But in particular, what's very unique about the Culpeper Minutemen was that we broke into 16 military districts in about August, right about now, in 1775. And we went all the way to West Virginia and Kentucky. That was all.
That's when Virginia was ginormous.
It was huge. And so of the 16 military districts, in October of 1775, the Culpeper Minutemen were the only ones that showed up with their full group on time and ready to go.
Go Culpeper.
Kind of our little motto that Jim Bish came up with was first to organize, first to march, first to win.
Gotta love that.
Which is but we were very unique. And there's been a lot of studies on the Culpeper Minutemen about why that has worked, because we drew people as recruits from all of the social stratas. It wasn't just the gentry or the merchants or the religious groups or the farmers, right? Or the lower class or even the slaves, right? Everybody came. And that was very unusual. The other forces weren't as diverse. And I believe, and we'll talk about this a lot more during History Week, is that that's because of our history of equestrian sports. You know, this area is still horse country. It was then, and it is now. So we were still the frontier at the time. So that's one of the reasons why the Culpeper Minutemen were so well known for their marksmanship and their rifle skills. Because they were able to, all around here would have been big game. Yeah. And they would have had to have hunted it in order to bring it down, because you can't really cultivate a lot of fields here. It's too rocky in a lot of areas. So when you have rolling fields like that in an uneven terrain, herding and raising of livestock is your main group, right? So that's your cattle, that's your sheep, your goats, and horses, of course. Right. And then you would hunt the big game that came in, with small vegetable gardens is basically what you did to supplement. So, but in horse sports, so the Culpeper Minutemen region was all of Orange, all of Fauquier, and all of Culpeper County, which is 1,000 square miles at that time. A massive area when everything is done on horse. And horse is the fast way. Everybody else walked, right?
Yeah.
So that now includes Greene County, Madison County, and Rappahannock County, which were all the same part of it, of course. But there's a lot of history of steeplechase and flat racing and just general equestrian sports. There's a ton of notices in all of our newspapers about breeding and all of these things going on at the major farms and locations. A lot of them are still here. Liberty Hall was here.
Yeah.
So Liberty Hall is over 300 years old, and we had a lot of stud fees being advertised at this time. So I know that there was equestrian sports going on. We had a jockey club, we had all kinds of things. So in order to get all these things around in a 1,000 square foot area, which was kind of the region that all of these people participated in sports with, you have to really be good at logistics, right? So they say colonels study tactics, generals study logistics. And so in order to get, your 20 horses, your grooms, your feed, all of the things that you need, plus your jockeys and the owners, they have to go too. From, Culpeper all the way up to, well, Middleburg wouldn't have been there, but let's say Loudon, right?
Yep.
On a weekend. And then back by, let's see, Wednesday in order to get back to work. It's a massive logistical feat on how to get all this here and there.
Yeah.
So they had an existing communication network that was completely outside of religion or the taverns. We didn't have taverns. We were not a commercial area. So there wasn't a main gathering place other than the churches. And it was still pretty far to get to that. But the massive gathering that brought everybody together from all these different areas was equestrian sports. So that's what I think. And in October for History Week, which is for grown-ups, and that's 9 days of activities through all of the 6 counties. And I'm hosting 2 colonial hunt breakfasts, which is very traditional for the fox hunting world. So we will host one at Liberty Hall with Warrenton Hunt, and we will host one in Rappahannock with Thornton Hill Hounds. And their hounds are actually part of the bloodline of the French hounds that Lafayette brought over. And George Washington will be out to hunt with us, and hopefully Lafayette will come out. And, we'll have a speaker who's kind of explaining a little bit about this. And then on Friday of that week, we're having a bivouac with John Green's rifles at my house, which is where John Green would have practiced in our very fields.
Okay,
right?
wow.
That was his house. He was the very first of the riflemen to actually get commissioned in, and that was like September 12th. So coming up would have been his anniversary, and he was one of the first riflemen to hold off the British coming into the Hampton Harbor and Norfolk area. So very well known for his skills. That's all about colonial war tactics and weapons and why this would have happened and why they would have done that. We've got a historical blacksmith coming in named Simeon England, and he is the one that designed the tomahawks that we gave out to our winning team.
I can't wait to see a picture of that.
They were fantastic, and they're different than what everybody thinks. They're like, wow, it's so small and it's so light. It wasn't a utility. This was not a weapon that was used as a tool. It was literally used to crack skulls of animals, of people, whatever. And it had to be light enough to carry. And Simeon can explain all of that when he's here. He's going to do several lectures around town and definitely at bivouac. So that's what's planned coming up. That's
awesome.
what we're raising funds for. So if anybody wants to participate, we're at culpeperminutemen.us is our website. You can donate there. We are a platinum rated 501c3 through GuideStar, and we would love for all of the community support, the financial support. Come up with a talent or something that you like to do. I will figure out a place to put you.
That's superb. So once again, your website, and this is where they can go to find out more information as well as sponsor an event.
Yeah.
And are you looking for just regular companies to sponsor you as well?
So we did have my broker in Charlottesville, a wonderful guy named Jack Wood from Charles Schwab, sponsored us.
Cool.
And then Tri-County, who are all about horse feed. And equestrian fashion. They're very nice at that. They sponsored us, the Blue Rock Inn, which is all about country living and they had equestrian stays where we play polo. They sponsored us. So there's a lot of other groups. There's one in particular called American Freedom Fund, which is all about bringing military soldiers into different sports so that they can keep up the camaraderie, much like what we did with bringing the French players over and combining them with the U.S. Is that, reestablishing that camaraderie through sports. And Patton Legacy Sports was part of it, and of course Mountain Run. Unbelievable sponsors, right? I mean, they hosted our VIP tent and they hosted the ball, and they were just
They're just wonderful people.
Unbelievable people. And one of the things about the ball, I know I'm way over, so you can cut this down. One of the interesting things about the polo tournament, which I didn't do a very good job of promoting because we just did it last minute, is that all of the food that was served through the concession stands was done by Grace's Barbecue out at Old Winston Store. And he smoked Liberty Hall beef and Double L Chicken, which is Lauren Clark, one of my board members, and Winston Store pork, which is his. And that was all the base meats. He smoked it all on property. And then we had Delilicious, who's right here on Rixeyville Road. She took all of Phil's stuff and put it into high-end kind of picnic things. So we had the midnight tartlet, you know, which was like a roast beef with a horseradish cream sauce and pearl onions, and the Liberty drum, what was it? The Liberty leg of, the drummer's leg of Liberty, which was all of the chicken legs. I mean, it was really cool. So in the Mountain Run. So everything that all of our guests had, and we had guests come in, of course, from France, several who were just guests enjoying the thing. Everybody there had a taste of Culpeper. They ate and drank Culpeper.
That's so awesome.
Which is really cool.
It is really
right?
cool. Yeah, we live in a great part of the world.
Yes. And there's so many people that want to connect and to form, you know, a cohesive group that is very local focused, right? Us first, so we can build up others.
I couldn't agree. Our show, Outdoors Virginia, we go to local. We just did a show at an aviary. I don't even know what
an aviary.
An aviary, guys.
And I didn't know. Wait, that's the bird one.
That's a bird. Yes, it's a beekeeper with a local beekeeper, and then we did one with and she grows. She's an herbalist, so we love focusing on the local because it's healthy. It's great for the community.
Yes. No, it's fantastic.
It really is.
It really is. And especially with beekeepers, when you're new to this area, go and if you literally consume the honey, which is all from you're taking up the soil and the atmosphere of Culpeper, you will not suffer from allergies. I mean, nature tells us this is how it works.
Right.
All we have to do is listen.
Yeah.
Right?
There's such a wonderful system laid out in front of us, but we love, plantation style, farming where we just grow one type of crop, spray them with chemicals, kill everything living around it, kill the food, no big deal because it's cheaper that way.
Which is, the big commercial farming, right? Which you can't compete with anymore. I can't buy $1 million John Green tractor to bring in corn. You just can't.
No.
So, so it's really nice that a lot of the small groups and farmers and everybody really came together, the historical groups and all of the merchants and the businesses. And Hot to Trot right down here, Audrey Curtis just opened her place and she had us over. She was handing out all the programs and, we're really trying to bring equestrian sports very much back into Culpeper, and she's doing a fantastic job of being a root.
That is awesome. That is so cool. All right, well, we have really reached the end of the show. I really hope that you've enjoyed the show as much as I have. And stay tuned because we have to have you come back on before your next season, schedule of events in October.
Yes, October 13th to the 17th is for the kids.
So we'll have you come on a week before that and you can explain everything then to our audience. Great.
So my name is Marie-Joseph Polyvroc Gilbert de Moutier le Marquis de Lafayette, or General Lafayette. And I have been invited back to America, courtesy of your former president, James Monroe, to be a guest of the nation and to tour all 24 United States. And we find ourselves here in Culpeper, Virginia, on this 24th day of August of the year 1825, as I am preparing to go towards the federal city of Washington, there to attend a birthday party for myself on the 6th of September, held by the President John Quincy Adams. And then I shall depart back to France after this wonderful journey of 13 months, 6,000 miles, 24 states, meeting all of the surviving presidents and the newly elected ones as well.
And your real name?
My name's Mark Schneider. I work for the Colonial Williamsburg Foundation in Williamsburg, Virginia, where I portray the Marquis de Lafayette. So I have been working together with the Colonial Williamsburg Foundation and the American Friends of Lafayette, an organization that was formed in 1932 to celebrate all things Lafayette, to take part in this wonderful 200th anniversary commemoration of Lafayette's return. So Lafayette returned back to America, again, courtesy of the president at that time, James Monroe, a dear friend of Lafayette. He received the invitation in France in February of 1824, and he arrived on the 16th day of August, 1824, in New York City in front of 90,000 of its inhabitants, even bigger than when the Beatles arrived. He then began his tour. It went northwards into the upper part of New York, over to Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, then back down south into New Jersey. He went to Philadelphia, Baltimore, then to the Federal City to thank the president for his kind invitation, then all points in Virginia, to the battlefield at Yorktown on the anniversary of the surrender, which was 19 October 1824, went to Williamsburg, went west to Charlottesville to visit, of course, Thomas Jefferson, then into Orange, Virginia, and Montpelier to see James Madison, then Fredericksburg, and then he wintered 24 to 25 in Washington. With the new year, he went to places he had never been before. Of course, he traveled again through Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, but he went to Georgia for the first time, into Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, up the Mississippi River into Kentucky. He went to the Ohio Valley, Tennessee, Indiana, Western Pennsylvania, up into Western New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, even Maine, before he began that journey southwards again, coming to Washington and saying his goodbyes on the 6th of September, 1825.
I'm Michael Gates.
Are you part of this event?
So I was invited by Dan Coleman. This is my first time seeing a polo event. He and I met. He came out and supported a cavalry competition that I hosted. I was the founder for the Combat Horsemanship Cavalry Association. We hosted an event in Las Vegas featuring active duty military, reenactors, veterans, and Dan came out and rode on my wife's horse competing in mounted shooting and sabers, and had a great time. So wanted to come out, see my first polo game, and support the Colemans.
So what about your uniform?
So I just got out of the Army this past summer. This is the pinks and greens Army uniform. Goes into full effect 2028. I knew I was getting out, but I bought the uniform anyway because it's a throwback to the classic World War II style for the Army. So it's got the castles on here designating me as a engineer officer. A couple of ribbons that I earned throughout my service, as well as the German Armed Forces Proficiency Badge that I earned back when I was a second lieutenant.
Hi there, my name is David Foster. I own Mountain Run Winery here in Culpeper. We got involved with this great event about a year and a half ago. We've been doing a lot with the Culpeper history folks, and Sarah Coleman was thinking, all right, who's got an old farm, roughly, 1700s, 1800s looking, where we would be able to host something. We've hosted the history folks, History Al Fresco out at our farm before. And so about a year ago, Sarah and I sat down and talked about what she was planning on doing. And we've got a great, about a 1952 pole barn, as well as about 125-year-old barn, which they were able to use to practice their English country line dancing over the last year. We probably held about 8 or 10 English country line dancing classes over the last year to get ready for this. Last night, we hosted the Lafayette Grand Ball out at our place. Big tent, had about 200 people, lots and lots of fun. We actually produced 2 special wines just for this weekend. We had one that features the Greenwood house on it, where General Lafayette actually went to. So we did that one, I think, for whether it was Friday or Saturday's Greenwood reception. And then, of course, we had to do one for the polo tournament too. We did our Cab Sauv, Blood of Tyrants Cab Sauv on there just for this out there. We're big fans of doing whatever we can to kind of support history, particularly Culpeper history. My ancestry, my 6th great-grandmother was born in Culpeper in 1727, so a little bit of history there. But we're definitely happy to be out here. It's a beautiful day. Back last year when we were thinking about planning this, I was all right, August, it can be pouring rain. It can be 100 degrees. You know, what are we going to do? And we got a perfect overcast 85-degree breezy weekend. And so could not have asked for a better weekend. And so far, everything has gone off perfectly.
Captain Fleming and Lady Fleming. Okay, so we've been in reenacting for probably 40 years. And so we this has been the year of Lafayette, yeah. And so we've been attending a number of the regional Lafayette events. And so this one now is sort of getting close to the culmination. And so we signed up for it because it sounded like a nice